Hello, welcome, welcome. Oh, I love it when people put on their videos so we could see their faces. Hi, hi, hi. I am Erica Verbo, and I help Nomadic Matt run this community. And I'm so excited. We already have Alex on the call today. So Alex is our presenter, and I am going to introduce her in just a moment. All right. Before we start, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can tell you a little bit about the Nomadic Network. And while I do this, why don't you go ahead and pop into the chat where you're calling in from and if you've ever scuba dove before. Is scuba dove how you say it? Scuba dive?
This is a hotly debated topic, actually. It's extremely hotly debated. So I'll accept either.
I feel like I should have cleared that up before I said it. All right, let me screen share. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yes? Okay, perfect. So welcome to the Nomadic Network. I just wanted to give you a little intro because we always have a few very new people on these calls. This is Nomadic Matt's, right now it's an online community, but it's actually our community arm. So we started this at the end of last year. We launched in 22 cities around the country and around the world, and it was super fun, and we were connecting people to each other, like travel lovers to each other, and we were really inspiring people to buy tickets the next day and try going to places that they had never tried before. And it was really fun to be in person. And then, of course, the coronavirus hit and we switched everything to virtual. And what we absolutely adore about these virtual events is right now I'm in New York City, Alex is in California, and we have people from all over. I can't see the chat, but I'm sure you're all over the country and probably outside of the country. So very excited about that. And so what we do, I believe this is, I think it's 65 or 70th. For the number of events that we've done since the launch of the coronavirus in March. So we've been doing 2 to 5 events a week, and we're very excited to be able to bring you all sorts of topics. Today is a pretty niche one, so I'm really excited about it. We haven't had anyone come on and talk about diving yet, so who better than Alex in Wonderland? So we're very excited. Just a few things to keep in mind. You can for sure turn your camera on. We love having these be like a community event sort of feel. You will be muted because that's a little too much community. We don't need to hear what's going on in your house. But there will be a Q&A to follow. So if you have questions, just feel free to type them into the chat. It's really helpful if you type the word question, because I'm going to be then going through and pulling them out so that I can do a Q&A with Alex halfway through this. So definitely feel free to chat in the chat. This is a community event. We really highly encourage you to interact with each other. And if you are a super diver that just goes, I said super diver, not scuba diver, but super diver that just goes all over the world and dives, like feel free to share your relevant experiences and to add on whatever you want in the chat. That's what it's there for. This is being recorded and the replay will be available for our Patreon members. That's at patreon.com/nomadicmatt. And then I just wanted to remind you guys that we are here to learn, satiate your wanderlust, and just have fun. These are really great events for the very hard time that we're going through right now. And so we're just trying to alleviate it for our travel enthusiasts. And then I wanted to remind you that our speakers are doing this out of the kindness of their heart and the passion for sharing their knowledge with you. So we're just extremely grateful for you, Alex, and for all of our speakers. And so I just wanted to just remind everyone that that's what we're doing. Also, that we have an amazing exclusive Patreon community. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it's where you pay, a small fee monthly to creators so that they can keep creating. And Nomadic Matt is an awesome writer. And so we have a lot of free things. Well, I guess they're not really free. You pay a little bit each month to get access to a bunch of things, including stories that we've never published on Nomadic Map before. You get t-shirts, signed books, guides, never before seen photos. There's a Facebook group, travel con tickets, all sorts of things. So that's really cool, and we invite you to that. And also, if you just really don't want to be a part of Patreon, but you wanted to support us, we would love that. And you could donate to us through PayPal here. And so without further ado, I will stop. I didn't stop sharing. I will stop sharing my screen and I will introduce Alex. For one, I just wanted to say, I love Alex. I've known her for years, and this is how I always describe Alex, and I'll give you her actual bio, but how I always describe Alex to everyone that I make follow her Instagram is if I was a blogger and if I had my own brand, I would have Alex in Wonderland's brand, because she literally does everything that I ever wanted to do in the world, except I really hate oceans. So everything but that. So I'm here to learn about diving, but I doubt I'll take any of that into consideration for my next trip, but I'm very excited to have Alex here. She's an amazing person, and I just want to read her bio off to you. Alexandra Baackes is a digital entrepreneur and globetrotter whose travel, sustainability, and adventure content has been charming her followers for over 10 years. If you guys don't read her blog, it is hilarious. Through her Instagram and blog, Alex has hooked readers on her intimate style of writing, covering her escapades her escapades abroad, whether that be scuba diving, aerial yoga, or working to green her life and the planet. She's collaborated with huge brands domestically and internationally. Most recently, her loyal followers have been able to join Alex to travel to destinations near to her heart as part of her women's travel company, Wander Women Retreats. And I'm just very excited to have you, and I would love for you to share your knowledge with us. I will mute myself. And go ahead, Alex.
Thank you so much, Erica. That might be like the best intro or, I've ever had for anything. Please introduce me always. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming and spending some of your night or morning or whatever part of the day it is where you are with me. Whether you are a novice diver or a super experienced diver, or we just haven't convinced you yet to go diving. I think we're going to have something for everyone. Whether it's diving or just in travel in general, I love these really quirky, unique experiences. And I think we live in such a fascinating planet. So I think there's something for everyone in this presentation. I do see some familiar names and faces here. So hi, guys. But for those of you who don't know me, Erica just gave you a little background on my career, but I'll give you a little background on my diving. I got certified in 2009, which coincidentally is around the time I started my travel blog. So they kind of always went hand in hand. I was certified in Koh Tao, Thailand, which is about the least quirky place on earth you can get certified to dive. And I have written a guide on Nomadic Map blog about diving there. So it's one of the top places in the world to get certified. I highly recommend it to any of you who have yet to get that certification once the world reopens again, or once Thailand reopens specifically, I should say. The next year after I got my open water, I went on to do my advanced open water and my rescue diver while doing a summer internship in the Cayman Islands. I was doing a photography internship, so my mentor also taught me some underwater photography. I later moved back to Thailand to work as an underwater videographer, and later I received a grant from the Women Divers Hall of Fame to do my dive master in Indonesia. So I just kept diving and getting excited and training and working in that industry. And eventually I did start, as Erica said, Wander Women Retreats, and now I take women diving all over the world. Which is truly my passion. I love introducing people to the underwater world. So with no further ado, I would love to share this presentation with you, which spans some of my favorite trips of the last decade and all over the world for some very quirky dive experiences. So I am going to start sharing. And like Erica said, feel free to pop any questions about any of these destinations or anything in general, and we'll get to them at the end. Okay, here we go. The world's quirkiest dive site. So I am starting with Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. This is a backpacker favorite. If you guys follow Nomadic Matt, you might be budget travel fans. This is one of the most beautiful budget travel destinations in the world in general, but very few people know you can actually go high altitude diving here. This is really fascinating. Even those who have kind of a light knowledge of diving might know that there's a lot of rules around flying and diving. You can't fly within 24 hours after your last dive because you need the nitrogen to release safely and slowly from your body. So the crazy thing about doing this dive is because you are diving in this high altitude lake, you actually can't leave the lake on the same day because you're so high in the air just at land, on land, that it kind of triggers those same safety diving rules. So I thought that was super cool, but you're gonna wanna spend the night there anyway, so I can't recommend it more highly. There's two really cool dive sites here that I loved. One is called Casa del Mundo, and as you can see in this photo, it's actually a sunken hotel. So you're scuba diving through rooms of the hotel that are completely flooded now. The water levels have been rising year after year, and you are scuba diving through the trees, seeing little fish swim through the branches. It is so memorable. These are also volcanic lakes. So the second dive site that I'd recommend going to there is called Agua Caliente. And I have incredible memories of this dive where they bring you down to and you're searching through the muck. You're putting your hands in the sand and feeling through for the fault line of the volcano. So it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter until your hands, like, you almost can't keep them in the sand. And then the dive master surprises you. They brought a little egg underwater and they actually hold it to the fault line and boil it. And I had never seen anything like it. And then they like cracked it on their tank, and this more or less hard-boiled egg comes out. So that was wild. And of course, it's very warm, so it felt quite good to ascend from that dive and come up to the nice, cool waters. And again, this lake is gorgeous. This is the cheapest dive that I will be featuring in this presentation as well. Guatemala is a fantastic destination. You only need to be open water certified to do this dive. However, I think it's a pretty unique opportunity to do the PADI altitude diver course. So I would recommend that if you are a certification junkie like me while you're there. And this is a one dive shop in this area, ATI Divers. So not a lot of shopping around. That's who you're going with. Many of us who are big world travelers and dive certified love Southeast Asia, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines. These are kind of the big destinations that we know and love. But I had one of my most memorable dives not long actually after I was open water certified in Koh Rong Samluam, Cambodia. The reef diving there was, to be honest, pretty disappointing. We went out for a couple dives and were kind of meh about it. And when we spoke to one of the instructors about what they loved about being there, they said they loved searching for seahorses. So we said we'd love to do that. And this is kind of a gamble when you go diving, because when you go out into the muck, you're searching. Muck refers to like the silty bottom of a dive site. So you're not diving on coral. You're kind of going out there and you are like digging through it. Well, not digging with your hands because we've only bubbles, but with your eyes searching around for what you can find. And I loved these dives. My Cambodian dive experience turned right around. Suddenly we were finding the craziest starfish I've ever seen. We were finding amazing nudibranchs. We found, in the end, yes, seahorses. So this is a beautiful dive, and the great thing about this dive too is it brings you out to islands that you might not otherwise visit. A lot of Cambodia travelers head to Sihanoukville and get that beach experience, but going out to Koh Rong or Koh Rong Samlom, you really get a deeper, I think, Cambodian travel experience. So back when I was there many, many years ago, we slept on yoga mats on a pier. I have heard that they have developed actual diving accommodation, so you don't need to rough it quite so hard anymore. Open water is all that's required to do muck diving. However, I recommend having good buoyancy because you are getting close and looking for small things. And a lot of patience. You can always go out there and see nothing but Angkor beer cans, and we definitely saw a lot of those. So it's a treasure hunt. This is one that is, I would say, in all my years and countries and hundreds of dives, this is probably the most extreme one that I have ever done. And a lot of times when I tell people I went diving in the Dead Sea in Israel, they correct me and say the Red Sea, which I've also dove in and is absolutely stunning. But I have to say, no, I also went diving in the Dead Sea. I am guessing at least a few of you have been there, and probably if you have, your first question is, how did you get down? You can see in this photo here that I have a lot of equipment on. I am covered in weights. So this is a really unique experience, and it requires a full face mask because the water is so salty that you really can't risk getting any in your eyes. And my divers in the group know that that is kind of a frequent occurrence, which is why you learn how to clear your mask so often. So I went down to Baackes. My Israeli boyfriend is somewhere in the background correcting me for this one. And you spend the morning in the pool learning how to use the full face mask. And then afterwards, you head down to the shore of the Dead Sea and you gear up. I'm just going to go back here so you can get another look at that. And there's a whole team. On the day that I did this dive, there were 3 of us diving and there were 4 employees helping us dive. So this is a serious expedition. They get you onto the shore. You can kind of see in this photo that I'm wearing shorts and not a full wetsuit because it's very, very hot. And they help load you up with weights and they help you get in the water. I was wearing about close to the amount of my body weight in weights on me. And then we went down, we saw these incredible salt formations. Unfortunately, the day that I did it, we didn't have the best visibility, but it was such an incredible experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. You can see I'm touching the walls. A lot of divers will like, when you think to touch anything underwater, but it's the Dead Sea. There's nothing alive to harm in there. So you can reach around for once in a dive and poke and prod. And when you come up from the dive, they meet you at the surface with freshwater hoses and hose you and all your equipment down before you even get out of the water. So there's a lot of safety and security in place there. And one of my favorite parts of this dive is actually the story of how they got started. Now, you will see the price of this dive. Here is another shock. And you can see that this is really something people do to check off their bucket list. But I love the story of how Dead Sea divers got going with this. A Japanese game show contacted this guy, Avi, who started the company, and said that, you know, they kind of did dares on the show or questions. And they had one that was, can you turn a cucumber into a pickle in the Dead Sea? And so they needed someone who would like help them film underwater in the Dead Sea and do all the diving parts. So he taught the crew how to dive, and he was a technical diver there, like working for the what are they called, the mineral industries that extract from the Dead Sea there. And he said after he took these Japanese TV hosts diving there, he was like, why can't I take other people diving here? And so he started that company. And they just operate dives like once a week or so. As you can see, it's an extremely specialized operation, but for anyone who has diving in every sea on their bucket list, or diving on every continent, or really wants to check off those extreme dives, I can't recommend it more highly. It is a very surreal experience. You do need to be an advanced diver. I'm a dive master, and this was a challenging dive for me. If you have the opportunity to do any full face mask diving beforehand, I think that is the part that will really help a lot. But also, I think for anyone, it would be a bit surreal to be in a water of that salinity and to have that much weight on. Now, here's something a little closer to home for those who are also in the US right now, like me and Erica, but kind of just as surreal in a way. And this is Emerald Lagoon in Key Largo, Florida. I actually have a video of this experience that I'm going to play for you guys right now.
We are here at the Jules Undersea Lodge in Key Largo, Florida, which has America's only underwater hotel. So we are about to go spend the night down there under the sea, and we are bringing you with us.
Are we excited, Heather?
Yes, I am. Welcome to the moon pool, where all guests dive in and out of the lodge. The interesting tidbit about this room is that when this lodge was originally stationed in Puerto Rico, the researchers started calling this the moon pool because they could see the moon reflecting from the sand. So due to the pressure changes from entering and exiting the lodge, you cannot bring your own toiletries unless you want a suitcase explosion. So the lodge provides shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and lotion that you can use while enjoying a hot shower after your dive. So through this porthole are both the lodge's bedrooms. Each one features a double bed on the bottom and a single kid's bunk up on top. Each room has its own porthole, its own TV with firebox, and its own little sink and get ready area. This is the kitchen, dining, and entertainment center of the Jules Undersea Lodge, where we have dinner, breakfast, and so, what is there to do to entertain yourself at 20,000 leagues? Oh, I mean 20 feet below sea level. First of all, you can take as many dives as you like in the lagoon. Second of all, you can read books like this one from our namesake, Jules Park. You can play board games like Oceanopoly, and you can watch as many ocean-related documentaries as you like because they are streaming Netflix right here in this lodge. We watched Chasing Coral and Mission Blue just to stick to our underwater theme.
Pizza is delivered.
I love pizza anytime, anywhere, but I have to say having it delivered underwater to 20 feet below sea level was pretty uniquely delicious. So the pizza delivery might be what makes this place famous, but you will not go hungry otherwise. Jules Lodge comes with a fully stocked fridge with all your favorite sodas, water, there's juice for breakfast in the morning. They also hook you up with coffee, tea, popcorn, cereal, and an amazing array of snacks from muffins to fruit to a whole box of goodies, but we just could not resist. We had to bring our own goldfish for this undersea adventure.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and let you guys watch the bloopers. Netflix documentary. You can take as limited fire. So this is why they didn't want us drinking, and they wanted. Okay, so as you can see, that was an incredibly unique accommodation and dive. This is very different from your typical Keys, Florida dive, which is on the Keys' beautiful reefs. And I highly encourage you to go there and explore all of that. Some of the best diving in the US and so accessible to us even now. However, I absolutely love the Jewels Lodge. I love the nostalgia of it. I love the history of it. I love the quirkiness of it. One of my favorite travel experiences I've ever had. And again, that price tag is pretty staggering. This is also tying with the Dead Sea Dive as the most expensive experience on this list. However, you can dive in the lagoon itself for much more reasonable price, and you can also do a little day visit and have the pizza lunch delivered without staying overnight for I think around $300. So you can definitely check out the lodge for various price points. All you need to be is open water certified to get in and out of the lodge, but I think it's pretty cool that they have these distinctive specialties there that you can earn nowhere else in the world. Not doing so is one of my biggest dive regrets. So if one of you guys wants to go back, let me know. I'll be your dive buddy. The Red Sea in Egypt is of course one of, is on every diver's bucket list. It's one of my favorite dive destinations in the world. We run one of our signature women's dive retreats there. It's very, very near and dear to my heart. And one of the amazing things that I found on my first trip there in 2018 was that you can do these camel diving safaris. And the second I heard that, I was like, sign me up. I need no further details. But it's really a cool experience because when divers first came to Sinai, which is the northern region of the Red Sea, there weren't really roads developed through a lot of it, and there still aren't. So they were exploring sometimes by speedboat, but some of the dive centers didn't even have speedboats because this is really primarily a shore diving destination, which is one of the things I love about it. And also gas is extremely expensive and boats are extremely expensive. So a lot of them, but what is very accessible and very available in the Red Sea region are camels, who have been working in that area for bajillions of years, scientific number there. So divers would strap tanks on the camels who can carry, I think, 2,000 pounds each. So a tank is nothing. And they would just trot out along the coastline. And that is how they discovered the incredible reefs at Ras Abu Ghaloum. So I just think that's so cool because you're literally following in the fin steps or hoof steps or what have you of the first divers to discover these reefs in Sinai. And they, I have dove all along the north coast of the Red Sea from Sharm el Sheikh all the way up to Israel, and this is my absolute favorite. You are sleeping at a really remote Bedouin encampment. They have no cell phone service. In fact, you really have to turn your cell phone off because it will click between Egypt and Israel and Saudi Arabia. And it's so remote, so beautiful. And once again, I'm going to share with you a little video of this experience. Whew. All right, that kind of almost made me tear up. I love that area so much. I've spent so much time there over the years. I really can't wait to get back. I love spending part of my year there every year and showing this really special place to women from all over the world. So if you want to go on your own, H2O Divers in Dahab is the dive shop that I work with for everything in Egypt. They are incredible. I would definitely recommend having your advanced open water if you do the Ras Abu Ghaloum sites, just because of the depth of those particular dive sites. And doing it, of course, as an overnight excursion, because as you saw in the video, it's adorable. Who wouldn't want to spend the night there and see the stars and watch the sunrise over Saudi Arabia? So my next spot is Koh Tao, Thailand, which, as I said in my little intro, is kind of one of the most like basic dive destinations in the world. You would not think it's super quirky. However, what I think Koh Tao really specializes in is dive education, because it is one of the biggest training centers in the world. It is really the place to go for any course that you want to find a passionate, super experienced instructor and really learn from the best. So the course that I did there was coral propagation. And I've actually taken a couple different coral propagation courses around the world, and this was one of my favorites. They all have different styles and different methodologies, and I really love seeing what the different methods people are using to really innovate and try to save our beautiful oceans. So if you're not familiar with the term, coral propagation is basically coral planting, because as I'm sure many of you know, and maybe some of you don't, coral is a living organism, and it is highly threatened in our ocean. So these courses are a really unique experience to get your hands dirty and get your hands on coral. And I think that to me was the craziest part of taking this 3-day course that I took, is you're doing everything they tell you not to do. You're touching the coral, you're breaking it, but then you're replanting it. And in this particular school that I did this course with, Ocean Republic, which is a partner of Sea Shepherd, they use a methodology where you trim from coral that is already started to die but has some living polyps, and you sever those. You take this amazing marine epoxy, you apply it to a new fresh substrate, and you go and plant it in the ocean. And we got to see the results of some of the coral that had been planted a few months prior, and it's so inspiring. It's so exciting to see the oceans regenerate. I think we have big travel fans in the house, so you guys probably know that Thailand right now is still pretty closed up, but if you are in the US, another place you can do this course is back in the Florida Keys with the Coral Restoration Foundation. We are actually running a retreat with them that got rescheduled for 2021, for July, which will include a 3-day coral propagation course, which we're super excited about. They are actually Coral Restoration Foundation, CRF, is the largest marine conservation group in the entire world. So they have a slightly different methodology, but it's incredible. And the really beautiful, quirky experience that you can have diving there is diving through these coral tree groves, because they plant them on trees made out of PVC. And you're literally swimming through hundreds of these artificial reef structures. And if you're there, you probably have a scrubby brush in your hand because you're volunteering and scrubbing algae off the PVC pipe. So incredible experience, really an amazing way to get back to the ocean. And for this, again, you really just have to be open water. But because you're dealing with our beautiful, delicate coral, I recommend having great buoyancy. You can always take a PADI buoyancy course, or just practice with more and more diving. Silfra, Iceland. This is such a memorable dive site. As you can see, I once again have a lot of equipment on, just like I did on the Dead Sea dives. This time I'm wearing a dry suit. This dive site is, I believe the water was 2 degrees the day I was doing my dive. It is glacial water. There's some incredible, I mean, I don't even know where to start with what makes this one of the world's quirkiest dive sites. First of all, you're diving between the tectonic plates. So you're diving between the North American and European continents, which in itself, I think for anyone who loves geography, loves geology, that's just chilling if the water wasn't already chilling you enough. Also, you're diving in some of the freshest, most beautiful glacial water in the world. So I actually took my regulator out of my mouth and drank some of the water during the dive, which is an experience I've never had anywhere else. I don't think I'll ever do that again unless I come back to Silfra, but it was so incredible. Here, again, you're not going to see a ton of fish. Wow, I'm realizing how similar this is to the Dead Sea dive right now. You do see some fish life, but mostly you are getting this incredible topography of the rocks around you and this beautiful, beautiful neon algae that you've really never seen anything like before. They have changed the regulations around this slightly since I myself did this dive. At the time, you could just go in there being advanced open water. Now you do need to have your dry suit certification, but you can do it there with them. So I think it's well worth it. If you ever want to complete the bucket list dive of going to the Arctic, which I have not done yet, you're going to need 50 dry suit dives, so you might as well get started with Iceland. And actually, I think that was probably a good idea because I had never been in a dry suit in my entire life. And if any of you guys have, I'm sure you can imagine what that's like. So I was in the water and I went to a lower depth and I didn't know how to control the flow of air in and out of the dry suit. And suddenly I was like a little sardine in a freeze dry package, and the dive instructor turned around and looked horrified and had to come save me from myself. So I think the certification is a good idea, actually. Because we're running a little over, I want to have time for questions. I'm going to save this video. You can find it on my website, but I am going to tell you about this incredible dive site in Panama. It is actually part of the same reef system as the Galapagos, but the waters are a little warmer, a little calmer, and there is no one there. It's called Isla de Coiba. It's in a remote part of Panama, and it was a former prison colony. So for many years, this island was a super successful prison colony because the waters are so surrounded by sharks that no one ever wanted to escape. Later, it was sold. All the prisoners were pardoned, and it became a national park. So now it's visited by very intrepid divers who want to see sharks because they say sharks guaranteed. It's one of the only places I've ever been in the world where they say that if you don't see sharks, you get your money back. And it's just this beautiful, beautiful paradise. So I'm gonna send all of you guys my blog post about this in the follow-up email so you can see and learn more about it. But I just think the history alone is incredible, and I've never really seen fish life like it. There's a company we went with called Scuba Koiba, and they do multi-day dive safaris that I think are incredibly priced. We slept in the national park in very basic accommodation, and then we're just diving all day. So it's kind of like a live aboard, but on land. This is for experienced divers. I think there were 8 of us on my trip, and every single person but one was a dive master or dive instructor. So we are talking big currents, remote diving, but it is worth it. As soon as you feel ready, I recommend you get there because it's incredible. And we had a pretty unique experience while I was there, which is we were, of course, hoping to see one of the most exciting fish in the sea, the whale shark. And after a couple days of seeing so many sharks, we weren't even signaling to ourselves we hadn't seen a whale shark. So we were really eager to, and the dive guide said, okay, I know the perfect place, we're gonna go there. We went out on our small boat and we pulled up, and there was this mega yacht on top of the dive site, and there were smaller boats around it with armed guards with machine guns. And the instructor was like, this is not normal. So we kind of went over to one of them, and they were all speaking in Spanish, and I was picking up a little bit of it. And he turned around and translated to us that the son of the president of Panama was spearfishing within the national park, which I'm sure you can imagine is incredibly not allowed. But we were certainly not going to enforce that ourselves. So we turned back. It came back later that day once he was done violating the law. And we saw whale sharks, and it was amazing. So one of my favorite dive memories. I feel like I'm saying that about all of these, but they really are. And now I am going to wrap up on this very silly, fun note. In Boracay, Philippines, you can go mermaid diving. Yes, you can dive in a mermaid tail. So for my 28th birthday, which now is a couple birthdays ago, I was really having a hard time with getting older, and I was like, I'm gonna have this 8-year-old birthday party for my 28th birthday. So I heard about the Mermaid Academy in the Philippines. And I flew there and did a week of mermaid camp, which was a lot of free diving and learning to swim with the fins. And one of the days was scuba diving with the mermaid tail on. Now, the Philippines is known as one of the world's best dive destinations. Boracay is really honestly not a part of that. So you're not there to see the best coral or sea life that there exists in the Coral Triangle. You're really there to put on a mermaid fin and flop around. So this was a super hilarious experience. It's well priced. It's a blast. Boracay is beautiful. It's definitely interesting to get used to kicking with your legs together when you're so used to kicking with them separately. And my friend Katie was with me. She did one dive with the mermaid tail, and she was like, I think that was enough for this lifetime. And she took it off for the second dive. I was like, I will dive in this forever. So I did both of them and loved it. And one of the divers on the boat, because some of them were standard scuba diving, non-mermaid diving, and one of them was like, why are you doing this? And I was like, and I think that the person who asked me was doing their open water. And I was just like, talk to me in 400 dives. You'll just start doing crazy stuff. Just wait. So that was, again, a super memorable experience, and my mermaid adventures have not stopped there. I'm actually in the process of putting together a women's freediving mermaiding retreat in Mexico. So this was a very inspiring trip for me. And that is it for my presentation. Let's see, now I'm trying to stop share. So I am happy now to take any questions or.
Oh my goodness. Alex always delivers.
Did we convince you, Erica?
Only the last one. Only the last one.
Girl, you don't even have to go diving. I can get you in a mermaid tail.
Yeah, maybe I just wanted the pictures on the sand. I'm okay without the diving.
Yeah, actually, that's the first level of mermaiding. You don't even get in the water, so.
Okay, I can do level 1. This is awesome. Catalina, who's been to 40 or 50 events, said this is one of the coolest TNN events she's ever been to. So high
Love
praise.
it.
High praise. Okay, we have a few questions, but we also only have a few minutes, so it's perfect. Dana was asking because she doesn't like the boat dives. She gets seasick on them. So she was asking, how deep is the dive in Egypt that you go to?
Egypt has a super wide range of dive sites. That's the Red Sea is also one of the best places in the world to learn how to dive. It's very calm, clear waters. You can walk right in. You don't even have to take a boat. So a lot of people find that really calming to just like walk in from the shore. So they have dive sites that are everything from like 12 feet, which I think is the minimum amount required to be logged as a dive, down to like the bottom of the trenches. So the Blue Hole is famously like 300 feet or something like that. So they really have it all truly right there in Dahab. I can't recommend it more highly.
Wow. Okay. And then John is asking, have you noticed that diving places around the world are deteriorating, and in what ways? I can't talk tonight.
I mean, this is definitely the hot topic. I went to DEMA last year, which is the world's largest industry dive event. There's about 10,000 people, which sounds so bizarre in 2020 to say. And the topic on everyone's tongue was, what are we going to do about the future of this industry? Because the coral, where the oceans are deteriorating. And I have been diving, like I said, since about 2009. So I haven't had the same breadth of, let's say, I just watched David Attenborough's new documentary this week, and he talks about watching that over 50 years of diving. It's definitely undeniable. The place that I can use as a baseline is kind of Koh Tao, because that's where I started diving and that's where I've worked in the dive industry. That's where I've done a lot of it. And absolutely, I've seen it. In some of their big famous dive sites like Champon, we see that there are less big fish year after year. And I believe they shared the statistic in that documentary that we've now fished 90% of the ocean's large fish. So the numbers don't lie, and we definitely can see it. But this is why I'm so passionate about sustainability, and we do cleanup dives on all of our retreats. And I'm really excited to start introducing those coral propagation courses and getting people excited about that. There's so much you can do to get involved. You can track coral on your dives. You can pick up trash. You can arrange. So I say that to say, don't despair. Don't think like, oh, I didn't dive in 1960 when Jacques Cousteau got going, so I missed the wave. It's still a beautiful, beautiful ocean out there. And I hope that people who dive get inspired to get involved with protecting it.
For sure. Okay, so that brings us to our next question from Anne, who's asking, are there any sneak peeks to your new retreats, and what are they? Where can we find them, and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I gave a one hint in that last one that we are developing a Mexico free diving trip, which I am super excited about. We had several in development, which I'll share here. Some of them, we were working on a Bonaire trip that I was really excited about. I think it's the most beautiful dive destination in the Caribbean. They've done an incredible job preserving their reefs in a way that a lot of other islands envy, I think. We're hoping to get that back on the schedule, and we are trying to get a Raja Ampat, part live aboard, part land experience on the schedule, which will also involve a little bit of coral planting and coral conservation. So those are a couple that are top of the mind right now. But we're actually going to be sending out a Wonder Woman retreat survey soon to see what people's top destinations are. So if you guys are interested, you want to get involved in that, sign up for our mailing list. We'll send that out in the email as well.
Where do they sign up for that?
We can send a link in a follow-up email out to everyone. Sure.
Perfect. All right, we have 2 questions, or like 3 questions about sharks. uh,
Anything specific?
well, I don't know if the first one is about sharks, but it's, have you ever been to the Bahamas, Stewart Cove?
I have been to Bahamas. I did an amazing liveaboard in the Bahamas. We're actually in talks with this company. They have several liveaboards, and at the very bottom of the budget scale is the one that I did very early in my diving career, which is called Blackbeards, and it's essentially, I would say, like camping at sea. And when I did it, it was, I think, $900 for an entire week, and that includes your diving, your food, your alcohol, like literally everything. It's so cheap, it's insane. And you can do like 2 or 3 up to 4 dives a day. So if you're new and you want to get experience, like it's an incredible one. I did see hammerheads and a lot of black tips. It's been a while, so I'm not remembering the species, but I didn't go to Stewart Cove on that particular trip.
Okay. The follow-up question is, how do you feel about shark feeder dives?
So this is definitely a big controversy. I haven't been to any of the big destinations that are really famous for them yet, like Cape Town. I know does it. I have definitely read up on it, but not enough, I think, to have an informed opinion. I know a lot of people feel like it changes the behavior of sharks pretty significantly. I also have friends that work in the dive industry that do work at places. I have friends who work at Stewart's Cove. I have friends who work in Jupiter, Florida, where they do some of that. And they feel like it really is a powerful way to show people that sharks aren't like the shark in Jaws that's out to attack you. So I think there's valid points on both sides, and I would have to do more research to form a strong opinion on it.
That's fair. And to the last shark question, have you ever had an incident where you had to deal with sharks, which I'm assuming is like a challenging incident?
Well, I just got back from French Polynesia, where I was diving in Bora Bora, Moorea, and Tahiti, and I did some humpback whale swims in the Austral Islands. I did a week of the humpback whale swimming, which is no scuba diving, it's just free diving. And you're out on the water for hours, you're kind of in choppy seas, you're deep, sometimes just like jumping out and there's just blue. And they were telling us all, like, I knew that there were tiger sharks around, and I was like, I honestly, like, I'm pretty cool with sharks, as you've seen and heard on this presentation. Like, I don't want to see them right now while I'm like swimming at the surface. And I was so stressed about it. And I think I told one of the girls, I was like, I think we tell all our divers so often, like, oh, don't worry about sharks when you're diving. They like only attack at the surface. And I'm like, now I'm at the surface. So I don't like this. I'm stressed. And we were about to drop in about midweek, and one of the photographers got in the water and he was like, tiger shark under the boat. And I was like, I don't really want to get in. I was pretty stressed, and one of the girls said, oh, he's kidding. And so I jumped in and I swam over. We actually had one of the best whale interactions of the week. And later he was like, I was not kidding. There was like a massive tiger shark under the boat. And I'm so relieved I didn't see it, because I think I would have been pretty freaked out by that. Like that, to be honest, I don't want to see that. And the guide was briefing us, or the boat captain. She was this total badass lady, and she was like giving this whole briefing in French. She was just like, if a shark gets too close, just like redirect it or bop it in the nose. And the guy's translating this in English. I'm like, I don't want to do that. But then after that, we went on to all the other islands. I saw like a bajillion black tip reef sharks and lemon sharks, and they were all beautiful. I wasn't scared of them at all. I was like, oh, hello, my sharky friends. So I think my comfort zone is just being on scuba, and I have, some growth in the free diving area.
That is phenomenal.
But I share that to say, like, a fear of sharks is not unnatural. I would say that was literally my biggest obstacle to overcome with scuba diving. As a child, I didn't like to close my eyes in the pool because I thought someone might like throw a shark in. So I get it. But I think once you become comfortable as a diver and you're down like on their level, you have this big tank, you have these big fins, it kind of makes you like visually appear twice the size. So sharks are actually, they truly are like scared of you, or maybe just a little curious. But my interactions with sharks have been very peaceful.
Well, that's good to know. Doesn't make me any less terrified.
I'll tell them to be nice to you, Erica.
I would appreciate that. Okay, that's all the time we have left for today. I just want to give some a few announcements before we go, but I wanted to say, Alex, this was amazing, 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 amazing. I can't thank you enough for coming here and for sharing your wit and your knowledge with us. I can't believe how much you speak like you write. Like, I love reading what you write because it's so colloquial and it's like exactly like you talk, and it's really funny. So if you guys don't follow Alex, please do. One of the coolest things about the Nomadic Network is we actually bring all these experts to you, and then you can follow them, and then eventually when you go on a dive, when the world opens up, you could be like, oh, let me ask Alex this question, or let me go look to see where she's gone in the world to dive. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to connect you to resources so that you can travel cheaper, better, longer, more interesting, to quirkier places. Like, I feel like you listed so many islands I've only heard of a handful of times in my life. And so just really fantastic, really great. And thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you. And I just saw your question, Erica. Did we eat the egg? No, we did not. I love it.
Oh, I skipped my own questions.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been here before, I just wanted to remind you that we put on so many events each week. Obviously tonight's was with Alex. Tomorrow night we're doing one all on travel journaling, and it's going to be awesome. And then on Thursday we're doing one with Chantel, who is currently living in Portugal, who's of Portuguese descent, and she's going to tell us all about where to go to in Portugal, probably in 2021. And then we have one on road tripping next week. We have one on travel hacking. And then we also have a number of happy hours happening. So if you're in Portland, Seattle, California, or DC, we have those all coming up in the next 2 weeks. So you can find them all at thenomadicnetwork.com/events. They're all free, and we love to have people to be there because it's just so much more fun with the community. And then again, I just wanted to share about our initiative, our exclusive community that you can come along and be a part of. It's really cool. Patreon.com/nomadicmat. Just by typing in that URL, you're not signing up for anything. You're not, doing anything until you want to. So I very much encourage you to go explore it and see what we have to offer. And again, if you wanted to just support us because you thought this was a really cool presentation and you want more really cool presentations to come, that would be great. And you could do that through PayPal. And then the last thing I'd like to say is thank you for being a part of our travel community. I know this is something that Nomadic Matt has been wanting to do for years and years and years. And I'll just tell you a tiny little story. As Matt gets these like fan emails and emails from people all around the world that are reading his blogs, the reason that we really started this was because we had so many people that just didn't feel, they wrote to Matt because they felt like Matt understood, and they didn't feel like anyone in their neighborhood understood them or in their town understood them. Like they had just traveled to Egypt for the first time and their eyes were open, and then they went back to their hometown and nobody could relate to them. And what we found was all these people were writing to us, but they were from similar locations, you know, like this person was writing in from New York, this person was writing in from New Jersey. And we're like, oh my God, these people should meet each other. And so that's where this idea came about. We've had it in the works for years and years, and it's just pure unluckiness that we started it right before the pandemic, but also maybe luckiness, because we don't know if we'd ever have pivoted to this. And Alex is always jet setting, and so we probably wouldn't have been able to pin her down. And so I just wanted to say thank you for being a part of this community. Thanks for showing up, and thanks for, you know, asking your wonderful questions, and for putting your screens on. It was great to see everyone's faces during Alex's presentations and videos and quirkiness. So I really appreciate it, and have a great night or day wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you. Alex, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. This is kind of an idea I've had for a presentation for a long time. So when Erica reached out and asked if there was any travel topic I could talk about, she's like, female travel, blah, blah. I'm like, we're diving. So I'm glad that other people also found this interesting.
Wonderful. And look for a follow-up email in the next few days from us. So we'll send you a bunch of things that Alex has in the pipeline, and other things about diving. All right, have a great night.